Hi, I'm Nathan Kilgore. Thank you for joining us today. Friendships can be difficult. You know, Muhammad Ali once said that friendships are so difficult and it's not the kind of thing that you learn in school, yet if you haven't learned the friendship thing, you really haven't learned anything. I'd like to share with you a conversation today between two lifelong friends on this topic of friendship in this very first episode of The Preacher and the Teacher.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the very first edition of The Preacher and the Teacher. My name is Lanny Kilgore, and I'm the preacher.
I'm Cleary, and I'm a teacher.
And we're going to be having some lively discussions that we want to share with you in the weeks and possibly the months to come. So we're very happy that you joined us this morning. And we're going to start by introducing ourselves so you can get to know us a little bit. So I'm going to have the teacher go first, and you can tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I've been teaching for over 50 years. I taught for 35 years at a local high school and taught science, and later I taught philosophy. When I retired, during that time, in the 1980s, I started teaching philosophy also at a local college. And then when I retired from the high school, I continued at the local college and picked up another position at another local college. So I've been teaching for over 50 years and love every minute of it. I'm married. I have 3 children, 5 grandchildren, and I'm going to do this as long as God lets me.
Yeah, so you have a few more years in your profession than I actually do. I was somewhat of a late starter. I've been preaching for approximately 35 years. Pastored a church for 30 years that I started here in Delta, Pennsylvania, called New Covenant Community Church. I retired there 2 years ago, but I've been serving as an interim pastor at another church. So I'm married. I have 4 sons, and I have quite a few grandchildren, but it's too many to count. But anyway, I've had my experience in presenting the gospel and also in counseling. I've done a lot of counseling over the years. It was one of the professions that I prepared for in conjunction to my ministry. So one of the things that we are going to be discussing is our various experiences and our points of view that come from our different positions in life. My position, my view as a preacher and as a pastor, and Dick's going to be representing some views as a college professor, and I like to call you a professor and of philosophy.
It's a little bit flattering, but
and he's been my mentor in many ways over the years. So, and a little bit about my hobby. My basic hobby is woodworking. For those of you that might enjoy woodworking, and then I also dabble a little bit in music. And both of us are fairly avid readers, and we'll be talking about that in weeks to come. And what would you say are your hobbies, Dick?
Well, for many years, I've been a birder, travel all over the Western Hemisphere, Central America, mostly, and the United States, North America. Looking for birds, and enjoy that very much. I also, my wife and I have done a lot of traveling in Europe, and we've enjoyed that as well. And like Lanny said, I really enjoy reading and trying to continue to learn as much as I can, and don't want to waste any of the moments, any of the minutes that we're given.
I've always been intrigued with your interest of bird watching, and I know you've learned to identify numerous varieties of birds. What would you say was your most memorable experience in looking and traveling to? What was the most exciting experience that you remember?
Well, there have been a lot, but I guess one that just came to mind was when I was in Costa Rica with another fella. I had met him there, and he got lost in the rainforest, and in a part of the rainforest where people had been lost before and never found because it's such a dense environment. And I was very concerned. I made it back to the place that we were staying, and I was very concerned that I was never going to see this fella again. But somehow he managed to find his way back, and that was quite a relief. But it was a bit of an excitement until he showed up.
So some people might think that bird watching is just for sissies, but actually bird watching, I guess, can turn out to be quite an adventure and quite a challenge.
It certainly can, and but to see something that is so beautiful and so wonderful as some of the birds that are, especially in Central America, but also in North America. There's so much beauty, and it's just a marvelous thing, and it gives you a thrill to see, especially to see something that you hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
And so it's always a source of enjoyment. Always been a source of enjoyment for me.
And of course, as a preacher, I have to remember Jesus' words about watching the birds and how God provides for them. And there's so many lessons, I guess, to be learned from nature as well, isn't there?
Oh my! And when you study bird behavior, animal behavior in general, and you look at how what they are capable of doing in their migration, their navigation, how they do all that, and you wonder how could this all be just a product of random chance? How could it just be blind, purposeless forces that have produced these marvelous creatures and their marvelous abilities? And it just fills you with awe the more you think about it.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And of course, here outside our recording studio here this morning, it's down to 8 degrees, and you wonder, how the birds keep warm and how do they sustain their life at a time like this. Well, let's talk a little bit about this thing called friendship. It resonates, I think, with the two of us, because I was thinking the other day, I think that we first met probably in 1973 or 74.
Somewhere around there.
Does that sound right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And how do you remember our first meeting?
Well, I'm not sure I remember our first meeting, but I remember, I don't know if it was at Christ Lutheran Church or if it was at Creedon Widener's, but I remember that we were introduced to each other, and I think we hit it off right away, and have maintained the friendship all these years, and it's just been a real blessing.
Yeah, it's real close now to 40 years, I guess, right? Or 50 years.
Well, yeah, close to 50.
50, close to 50 years of friendship, which is fairly uncommon, I think, today. For one thing that's kind of interesting is we both live in the same houses that we lived in when we met. When we met 50 years ago. You still live at the same address, and I live at the same address. So I'm sure that helped facilitate our years of friendship some. But what I was thinking about, what exactly solidifies a friendship? What makes friendship work for people? Do you have any ideas about that?
Well, I think one of the greatest books written on this is a book by C.S. Lewis called The Four Loves. And he talks about the difference between friendship and companionship. That two people can be companions for a while, but it's sort of temporary. But when they share a common love for something, when they share common interests, and the more common interests that they share, the more likely the companionship is to develop into a friendship. And I think that there's a lot to that friendship is based around sharing something that a truth, a common belief, something that both people feel is very important. And that when they share that interest, and it's often something that maybe others don't see. It's a truth that others don't see, or it's an interest that others don't have. But when they share that interest, the companionship often evolves into a friendship. And I think that Lewis is on the mark there.
I couldn't agree more. I was thinking about what you were saying there with regard to marriage, because I think most marriage counselors will tell you that a good marriage is made by friendship, not just being lovers, but being friends. And a lot of that has to do with sharing things in common loves, common values, and ambitions that solidify together. So, and now with regard to our friendship, I think one of the things that stands out in my mind that helps solidify our friendship, which our friendship is based on, is our mutual love for books. But not just books, but ideas. And we'll talk a little bit about that in the next session. But what else would you say kind of cements our relationship together over the years?
Well, certainly our common love for God, our common religious belief, although I don't like to call it religious, but our common Christianity, I think, is certainly has been a glue. If we didn't share that, I don't think we would ever have developed a friendship.
True.
So that has been the thing that has formed that sort of cement, and it gives us a common focus. And the fact that we do enjoy learning, and we enjoy developing our understanding of our faith, so that I think is also something that has kept us close. So,
and we both enjoy bantering around ideas and concepts, both with regard to Christianity and politics and other things. And then, of course, you might also want to know that we're a part of a book club that has been meeting now for 30 years and discussing books on a regular basis with some other fellows, which has also cemented us together. So now, according to this one survey I read, friendships across the board in the United States, in our country, our culture, is diminishing. In fact, I read that like 12% of people interviewed have no friends at all. No friends at all. And nearly half reported having fewer than 3 close friends. Well, I'm interested in your ideas. What do you think is diminishing the amount of friendships that people have today?
Well, I'm not sure, although I do find an irony those statistics, because you would think with with social media and the ability to maintain contact with people and to talk to people, and the fact that we consider each other friends on social media, and yet it seems like despite all that, there's such a difficulty in maintaining a friendship that it seems ironic, or it doesn't seem like it should be that way. I think that part of the problem, part of the reason why, is because what goes along with this disintegration of friendship is a disintegration of a sense of community. We don't have a sense of dependence on other people that maybe our grandparents or great grandparents had. That we're more autonomous. We feel more independent, and truth to tell, I think we're also more narcissistic than perhaps our ancestors were. And when we focus inwardly, we focus on ourselves rather than focusing on other people. That tends to isolate us, and it tends to alienate us from others, so that it's hard to maintain friendships, because we're more concerned about what's in it for me than what I can contribute to a relationship. It makes it hard to maintain a relationship.
Yeah, there's always this contrast between, has been well said, people are either givers or they're takers. And I think friendship requires a lot of giving, but we tend to be a culture that's more focused in on getting rather than giving. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you commented on independence, because a lot of friendships in the past were based on need. I need friends.
Right.
And now I see this contrast in Honduras, in the trips that we've taken there. When you live in poverty, you have a lot more friends, and you invest in those friendships because you're dependent on those things. So we're going to be running out of time here. I was just wondering what to give our listeners maybe a challenge. What would you say is, if you were going to give some instruction to somebody, what would be some good advice for somebody who wants to become a friend or wants to build solid friendships? What does that take?
Well, I think that first I would say, don't focus on being a friend. People who say I want friends, I need friendships. When they're focused on that, it's often because they have some need, some emotional vacuum that they're trying to fill. And a person who is always looking to be friends often is sort of difficult to be around. But I think that a person who is friendly and who is other-oriented, who's oriented toward helping others, friendship just comes naturally. It's not something that I don't think you can gin up. I don't think it's something you can artificially manufacture. It has to emerge organically, naturally, and just by in sharing common interests.
So it's kind of like one of those ironies of life. As someone said, you never really acquire happiness by making it your goal.
Right.
If you make that your goal, you're apt not to attain it. So if you make friendship your goal, if that's your only goal, it's probably going to fail.
I think so. Yeah.
It needs to be based on other values other than just, it's a byproduct, like we say. So, well, this kind of brings us to the close. We're trying to keep these sessions to 20 minutes. So, again, thank you for listening in, and we hope that you'll tune in the next time, and that you'll find these sessions helpful, encouraging, and inspiring, if not challenging, in your own life.
I agree.